There's a small island on the far edge of Europe that the world thinks it already knows. A place wrapped in postcards, softened by clichés, flattened into symbols that only tell half the story. But Ireland is never just what it seems. Tonight, we're peeling back the mist. We're stepping beyond the tourist tales. We're wandering into the heart of a country that whispers more than it shouts and is misunderstood more than almost any nation in Europe. So sit with me and let the truth drift in slowly. Chapter 1. A country that laughs through pain. Most people see an Irish smile and immediately assume, they're always cheerful, always joking, always light. But that smile isn't just a smile, it's an inheritance. A survival instinct polished across centuries, shaped by storms that never fully passed, softened by a people who refused to let darkness win. Behind that warmth is something far deeper than friendliness. It's a national reflex, a way of taking stories that are too heavy to hold outright and making them light enough to carry. Ireland learned, not in one generation, but in a long echo of generations, that when the world bends you to your knees, you either break or you learn to laugh in a way that keeps your spirit upright. Through colonization that tried to erase them, through famine that hollowed out entire families, through exile that scattered their people like seeds in foreign soil, through losses whispered into the soil of every parish, the Irish discovered that humor could be more than amusement. It could be a shield, a secret armor, a soft rebellion dressed as joy. So the jokes? They're never just jokes. They're pressure valves. Little escape hatches that let the pain breathe without exploding. They're coded messages. Tiny winks that say, we've been through worse. We're still here. Irish wit is layered like old stone walls. Sarcasm resting on sorrow. Mischief covering old grief. Playful banter wrapped around wounds that haven't fully healed, but have learned to live with the weather. Ireland laughs so it doesn't drown. It laughs because crying alone would never be enough. It laughs to keep the darkness from settling too comfortably. It laughs because joy, when you've fought for it, feels like an act of defiance. And yet, the world, looking only at the surface, often misunderstands that laughter as naivete, as simplicity, as some sort of built-in cheerfulness that floats without weight. But no one grows humor this sharp, this quick, this instinctively layered, without having walked through fire, and decided to walk out with a grin instead of a scar. Ireland's laughter isn't light. It's luminous. Brightness earned the hard way. Chapter 2. The myth of smallness. Europe loves calling Ireland small, as if a country's size can be summed up by the distance between two coastlines, as if meaning and influence are things you can measure with a ruler. But Ireland's presence, Ireland's shadow, Ireland's imprint on the world? Absolutely colossal. This is a country that sent storytellers across oceans, like seeds carried on the wind. A country that exported musicians whose songs still echo in pubs from Boston to Buenos Aires. A country whose revolutionaries rewired political movements, whose poets reshaped imagination, whose dreamers walked into foreign lands and made them feel a little more like home. Ireland is small only on a map. In spirit, in soul, in cultural gravity, it is enormous. This is a land whose language, nearly crushed, nearly silenced, still rises from the lips of children in classrooms, still whispers across road signs and prayer books, still flows through poems that refuse to let it fade. Irish isn't just a language. It's a heartbeat, a quiet act of resistance that survived by hiding in songs and stories until it was safe to breathe again. And then there's the diaspora, one of the largest, most far-reaching webs of identity on the planet. More people with Irish roots live outside the island than within it. Think about that. A nation so small, its people spilled out across continents and never once lost the thread that bound them back home. Ireland's borders stretch across family trees, across generations, across the soft ache of belonging. Ireland may be compact in landmass, but it contains entire universes inside it. Worlds built on myth older than empires, on poetry that turns everyday life into music, on a stubborn, beautiful identity that refuses to flatten itself for anyone's convenience. This is a country shaped by a refusal to disappear, a quiet, enduring insistence. That presence is not determined by acreage. Small? No. Ireland is a whisper so powerful, it can cross oceans and still be heard clearly, even centuries later. Ireland is small only to those who have never learned to listen. Ireland isn't a dot on a map. It's a ripple that never stops expanding. Chapter 3. The land that looks peaceful, but remembers everything. People come to Ireland for its quiet landscapes. Those rolling green fields that look like they were brushed onto the earth. Those fog-drenched hills that seem to dissolve into sky. Those stone fences that wander across the countryside, like they're thinking their way through the land. Visitors arrive expecting calm, expecting softness, expecting a country that whispers instead of roars. But that quiet? It's deceptive. Ireland's silence isn't emptiness. It's depth. It's a stillness filled with things unsaid, things remembered, things held close by the land itself. Because Ireland is a place with memory. Deep, ancient, old as bone memory. Every hill has a legend wrapped around it like mist. Every river carries a ghost in its current. Every stone has overheard centuries of footsteps, confessions, songs, and cries, and somehow keeps all of them tucked beneath its cold surface. The soil remembers kings, not the polished ones from textbooks, but the mythic ones, the warrior rulers, the sacred figures crowned under open skies. It remembers rituals whispered in languages older than history. Monks lighting tiny candles against a world that felt unbearably dark. Scribes bending over manuscripts, as if the ink they wrote with was another form of prayer. The cliffs hold the echoes of ships that never reached home. Names lost to tides. Stories swallowed by the gray wildness of the sea. And the forests? They're thick with shadows. Not frightening ones, but the presence of rebellions whispered about even now. Plans made in low voices. Footsteps treading softly through leaves, as if the trees themselves were allies. The land looks peaceful, but its peace is layered, woven with what came before, alive with the weight of memory. Beneath all that green lies a pulse, an ancestral heartbeat steady as a drum, reminding anyone who listens closely that this island has lived many lives and carries all of them at once. Visitors see a postcard, a pretty, tranquil landscape meant for photos and travel brochures. But the Irish? They don't just see land. They see a living archive, a keeper of stories, a quiet guardian that watches, remembers, and holds everything. The joy, the pain, the myths, the scars, in its vast and ancient hands. Chapter 4. Misunderstood politeness. Ireland's politeness confuses outsiders because it doesn't behave like regular politeness. It isn't flat, or literal, or straightforward the way other cultures expect politeness to be. It's layered, like peat. It's coded, like an inside joke everyone grew up understanding. It's built on emotional intelligence so subtle. You could miss half the message if you blink. Irish people rarely say exactly what they mean. Not because they want to deceive, not because they're being evasive, but because they've mastered the art of softening the edges of the world. They use gentleness as insulation. They use understatement as a cushion. They speak in a way that protects the other person, and sometimes themselves, from unnecessary harshness in a world that already cuts deep enough on its own. Your grand might sound simple, but it can mean a whole spectrum of truths. I'm overwhelmed, but I'll manage. I don't want to burden you. I'm not fine, but telling you would open a door I'm not ready to open. Or even, I'll survive, I always do. One phrase, dozens of emotional translations. No bother at all, might come out with a smile. But underneath, it could be saying, that was actually a massive bother. I'm giving you grace, but please, don't make this a habit. I don't want conflict, so I'll keep this smooth. It's kindness doing heavy lifting. And then there's the iconic, ah, sure, look, a phrase that is practically its own full language. It can mean, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Or, it is what it is, we move. Or, life is chaos and I have surrendered. Or, we're not fixing this, so let's just accept the madness together. It's a verbal shrug, a sigh, a hug, and a resignation, all in 3 words. People from outside often mistake this softness for weakness, for passivity, for an unwillingness to be direct, or even for dishonesty. But it's none of those things. Irish politeness is strategic kindness, gentle, but incredibly solid. It's social grace sharpened by centuries of navigating power, surviving conflict, and learning the quiet power of choosing empathy over blunt force. It's a velvet glove, yes, but over a very steady, very capable hand. A hand that knows when to soothe, when to steady, and when to say nothing. Because silence speaks louder. Irish politeness isn't about avoiding truth. It's about delivering truth in the softest, most humane way possible, so everyone walks away intact. Chapter 5. The spirituality no one talks about. Ireland is usually associated with Catholicism, with the tall spires, ringing church bells, and familiar rituals that mark life from baptism to funeral. But beneath those church bells, beneath the familiar prayers and hymns, lies something older, something wilder, something mysterious and beautifully strange. A layer of spirituality that whispers in ways the world often overlooks. It is a spiritual world woven from ancient pagan roots, tales of fairies that dance between the trees, rituals carried through centuries in the rhythm of the land, and a relationship with nature that feels more like a deep, enduring friendship than a mere belief system or set of rules. Here, the wind can feel alive. The forests can feel like guardians. Every stone and stream carries memory. And sometimes, if you stand quietly enough, you can feel it too. There are places in Ireland known as thin places, spots where the boundary between this world and the next is fragile, almost porous, so delicate it feels like the veil could tear at any moment. People tie ribbons to the branches of wishing trees, leave small offerings at holy wells, whisper wishes to stones, and speak to rivers as though they are old companions who have witnessed every joy and sorrow. This quiet, persistent spiritual duality, Christianity on the surface, ancient magic and reverence underneath, makes Ireland one of the most spiritually layered countries in Europe. Yet few truly see it. The outside world often calls it superstition, a quaint relic of the past. But those who understand it know better. It is not superstition. It is connection. Connection to the unseen, to the eternal, to the land itself. And through it, to something far older than any stone church. Something that quietly insists the world is more alive, more intertwined, and far stranger than most of us ever imagine. Chapter 6. The world expects drama. Ireland gives subtlety. Europe often celebrates loud identities, grand monuments that scrape the sky, gestures that demand attention, and bold declarations that cannot be ignored. Ireland moves differently. It does not seek the spotlight. It does not crave applause. Instead, it whispers its presence, revealing itself in small rebellions, subtle and deliberate. A joke that carries truth hidden beneath its laughter. A song that carries a warning woven between its notes. A story that conceals a protest beneath layers of folklore and history. Irish culture is not loud. It does not announce itself with fanfare or ceremony. It is deep, layered, enduring. It does not demand attention from the world, but for those who listen, who pause, who observe. It rewards patience with richness, with the kind of quiet wisdom that echoes long after the moment has passed. This quiet confidence is often misunderstood. Outsiders see silence and think passivity. They mistake understatement for weakness. But in Ireland, subtlety is power. It is deliberate. It is cunning. It is strength wrapped in gentleness. A way of shaping the world without raising your voice. It is why Irish stories endure, passed down through centuries, finding life in whispers as well as in song. It is why Irish art lingers, haunting galleries and streets with a soft insistence that the world slowed down and notice. It is why Irish songs haunt the mind, their melodies carrying emotion too complex for mere words. Ireland does not need to shout to be unforgettable. It does not need fireworks to leave a mark. Its presence is in the details. The tilt of a roof, the twist of a lane, the silence between notes in a song. It is subtle, yes, but it is profound. And anyone who thinks otherwise may never truly understand the quiet, enduring power of this land. Chapter 7. The new Ireland no one notices. The world still imagines Ireland in the same old frame. A land of sheep grazing under gray skies, pubs spilling laughter into rain-soaked streets, and endless drizzle that seems to define the mood of the country. But the Ireland of today has moved far beyond these clichés, far beyond the postcard images that linger in the minds of outsiders. This is a country buzzing with quiet, restless energy. A nation where creativity hums in every corner. Designers craft fashion that bridges tradition and innovation. Filmmakers spin stories that challenge, enchant, and redefine European cinema. Musicians blend ancient melodies with modern beats. their songs echoing beyond borders, telling a story of a people both rooted and restless. Tech hubs pulse in cities once thought small, rivaling major capitals with their innovation, startups, and ideas that shape the digital world. And at the heart of this change is a young population, curious, daring, and unafraid to question old rules, rewriting traditions, transforming politics, reshaping identity with each new generation. Ireland is no longer culturally one note. It is layered, diverse, and multilingual. It is a home for immigrants whose presence now defines its food, its music, its fashion, its future. It is an old soul who has learned new rhythms, who carries history in one hand and possibility in the other. Yet the world often only sees the past, the myths, the clichés, the familiar images, and misses the quiet revolution happening in streets, classrooms, and studios right now. Ireland is changing, not with fanfare or bluster, not with proclamations or grand gestures. It changes quietly, subtly, but with a depth that reshapes its very identity. And for those who look closer, those willing to step beyond the familiar lens, Ireland reveals itself as a land that is not frozen in memory, but alive, evolving, and profoundly present. Ireland doesn't fight to be understood. It just exists, quietly powerful, deeply emotional, soft on the outside, iron on the inside. Most of the world misunderstands Ireland because they expect simplicity. But Ireland is a story, one you have to sit with, listen to, and let unfold in its own time. So tonight, you've heard a few of its whispers. Not all of them, never all, but enough to see the island a little more clearly than the world usually does.